Hi, my name is Allie, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm the maker behind Crochet in the Mud, where I do both crochet plushies as well as pottery. And today is a weekly makes video where I showed you everything I crocheted for the week. And it is market day, so this one is filmed a little ahead of time. So lately I've been bad and I've been crocheting on the weekend instead of taking those days off. So I've had a couple extra days in those videos. So this is going to be what I made for the past 4 days, because today is currently Friday morning and I need to get everything prepped for my market tonight. So this is only 4 days worth of stuff, but still quite a large variety. So we will start off by showing you something that I believe I've been talking about, but I just haven't made in a while, and that would be I finally got around to doing my no-sew spider. Now this one I had last Halloween and they were a hit. And I told myself they are year-round plushie, and I never made them again. So now that I'm prepping for Halloween, I was like, I should probably make those again. And when I said make these again, I meant make them again. So this week I finished 28. So I went through, and to help stash bust, I finished off my skein of purple mystical that I have, and I love making them in this color. And then I usually also make them in gray. And on my shelf I had these 3 different grays that have just been sitting there, and I have no plans for them. Really the only gray that I use on a frequent basis is dark gray, which I use for my possums and sharks, which I haven't made in a long time. And that's just the gray I like, but I might be switching to Chenille Bright's Basics. We'll see though. But these are the 3 skeins that I went through and finished out. So I don't have a record for how many purple and how many gray I have, but these are all going to be counted as gray, and then these are just purple. So I did give some to my stores, so I've already given 10 of them to Eclectic, and then I think I'm going to give 6 of them to Painted Tree, which leaves 12 of them for markets. So not as many as I thought I was bringing to the market, but 12 is still better than 0. It's just hard when you're trying to stock 3 different places. So those I do sell for $12 a piece. They will be part of my Pocket Pal bucket. If you see my market day videos, I normally have a spinner. And depending on how many, it's 1 to 2 of them. It's definitely going to be 2 buckets. This market are labeled as just Pocket Pals, and then there is a disclaimer on there about the safety eyes. But they're the only plushies I don't tag individually, just because there's so many of them. But to Henry's annoyance, I do keep track of how many of what color sold. So it's definitely a lot of effort to keep track of the colors when it comes to that. But I like knowing what the better selling colors are, so I know which ones to focus on, and which ones don't sell I won't make as many of. But the next thing I made, because I was trying to prep things for my store, because I did go to my store on Wednesday, so also within my 4 days of prepping, half a day was not focused on prepping, and I did a lot of editing this week. So honestly, I'm impressed with what I did manage to get done. But I ended up making 5 possums, and I gave 4 to my store, so I have 1 more to bring to markets, which I think puts me at 5. And I'm just gonna hope for the best with this. But this gray yarn, I might have mentioned this last week. I'm not sure if I did or not. But I got this gray yarn from Michael's. This is dark gray. It's the gray I normally use. But this one is rough. So I have never really experienced going to the store and grabbing a skein and it being awful. I guess I was spoiled from Joanne. But I just didn't think of anything of it. I just grabbed the dark gray. I believe it was the only skein they had in store. And it's squeaking on the hook. It is rough to work with, but I'm getting close to being done with it, so I'm just going to finish it out on possums and then call it good for that. And then, like I mentioned earlier with the spiders, I might just switch to using Chenille Brights instead of shopping from Michael's, just because also I'm really enjoying the Chenille Brights yarn, so I might switch to that. We'll see. But next thing that I finished was I had to finish my rainbow. If you've been watching all my videos, my goal is to have the entire rainbow of axolotls at my market. So I still need to make green, And like I mentioned, I'm running really low on this light green, so I only made one of each. So these are the only 2 axolotls I made this week, and most likely they're not going to sell. They are my worst selling color, but I needed them to complete the rainbow. So now the entire rainbow will be at my market tonight, which will be exciting, and I haven't yet decided how I'm going to display it. I go through 2 different displays depending on how many I have. Sometimes I'll use that spinner, one of the racks. I will just line it with axolotls. The downside to that though is people very messily throw them back in, and so I have to frequently go in and make them look tidy and also put them back on rainbow order. And then the other way I've done it is using my bookshelves. I will stack them, so pretend this possum is an axolotl, so I will have a row on the bottom and then I will stack some in between. And usually I'll have like dark on the bottom, light on top, or something like that. But I feel like that one's the most apparent when I then lose a color of my rainbow. And that one's nice too, to be able to, with having 2 of each, I can just replace whatever was bought. We have a handful more of things you've seen all the time from me, and then I have a bunch of new plushies to show you. So my mallard duck is a little different this week. So I went out and bought the demi pearl from Loops and Threads, and that is this brown color. So it's a nice, for the duck at least, a nice texture difference. It looks a lot softer. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up. But just visually, the brown is a different texture than the other colors, which were all from Bernay Blanket. So I really enjoy this. I do have an entire video coming out about the demi pearl yarn. So whenever that video does come out, I'll tag it up here. But it was very nice to work with. It is thicker than Bernay Blanket, so that was a little bit of an adjustment, but I mean, they go together. I used the same size hook between all of it, and you can't really see holes in the stitches in either way. It's just a lot tighter in the brown. But I ended up making 4 of the Mallard Ducks, which will be the only 4 at my market. I realized as I was last minute making, I believe yesterday, so the day before my market, I was like, I never crossed Mallard Ducks off my list. These are usually a bestseller. 4 is not the ideal number I would bring, but we're going with it. I had a lot of other things to focus on making yesterday. Along the same lines, we also made 4 chickens. This is from the same pattern pack, and as always, my patterns will be linked down in the description, but I made 4 chickens as well. Nothing too special about these ones. It's the same I always do. And I have 4 as well, and hopefully that'll be enough. I do have a lot of variety of plushies at the market, so hopefully that's fine. And then the last remake to show you are my jellies. So I made 2 pinks. That's all I managed to get to, but they usually do decent. Either they sell out or they don't sell. I think it also kind of depends on where I put them in the market display. So if they don't sell at the market, I know for sure they sell really well at my store. I try to not take market inventory to my store. Usually if this is devoted to markets, it'll stay with markets. But if for some reason it doesn't sell for a couple markets, I can always move it to my store and it'll sell pretty quickly there. So I also need to make some for my store. But right now I'm focusing on markets, and then maybe this next week, after I come back from out of town, I'll focus on my market, on my store a little bit. Maybe for like a day or 2. I don't know. There's too much to focus on, because then of course when I come back I have 2 weeks and then another market, and that one's a 2-day market. So we'll have to see how well my market tonight goes as to how well off I am for my other market, but also my store needs to frequently be being stocked. And also we are approaching the holiday season, which is very busy in the store, and I will quadruple my sales. So I definitely need to get them inventory. They are stocked well enough for now, but once November hits, I gotta up that production, which is hard. So I need to focus on that now instead of procrastinating and screwing myself over at the last minute. Now this next plushie I have to show you, I am not happy with. So I went through and I had a list of other plushies that I wanted to make that I've had a video waiting for to finish out. So once that video does go live, I'll link it up here as well. But before I tell you what this plushie is, put your guesses in the comment. Now, the pattern did show to do it monochrome, which I did. This also isn't quite the right color. I really need like a medium orangish brown, but I don't have that right now. I think caramel from Basics Chenille Brights will work, but when I last ordered, they were sold out. So I was working with what I had, man. But the pattern showed doing it monochrome, so I did as well. And then I did it again and looked at how other patterns are, and usually they do them two-toned, so I did that as well. I forgot to color change the baubles, so pretend those are the dark brown. But now it's giving pug, which is not the animal I'm going for. So quickly drop your comments below. You've now seen two. The third one will hopefully give it away. But I decided to do the two-toned again, but switch up the lighter color. Again, it's still not perfect. And I added an orange to its head. So hopefully that helps a little. This is supposed to be a capybara. I don't think any of these three give capybara. But I don't think I'll revisit this pattern, which is a shame. But yeah, those are my three capybara. They came out to, I'm going to sell them for $16, and hopefully someone will love them. If someone calls this a pug when they're buying it, I'm not going to correct them. The tag will say capybara, but as I've learned through many jobs I've done in my life and doing markets, people don't read things. So maybe someone will think this is a pug. I don't know what they'll think this middle one is, but I'll probably at some point go to a different capybara pattern, because I would like to have capybaras at my markets, but not this pattern. So now that you know what that pattern is, I will kind of tell you why I had a checklist of patterns. I was finishing up part 1 of this book because I was really close, and in order to bring them to market, I needed to make that video. So that's also going to really up my market inventory once I get to that number, but that's at the end of the video if you've seen these before. So I had a couple more from that book to finish up. So the next thing I made was the lizard, and it's okay. I like the outcome. I'm gonna try to charge $24 for these. I think I can definitely get away with that. They are much more detailed than other plushies. I mean, like, this is a ball, but these are like leggy frog legs, so hopefully that price is acceptable. We will see. But even if it sits with me for a while, charge what you are worth. Your time is valuable. So this is what my calculations are based on how long it took me to make it, as well as how much I paid in materials to make this. So whether he's with me for a while or not, we'll see, but I think it'll sell for $24. Now, there was one complaint I had about this pattern, and that would be the head. So if you are not aware with that book, all of the plushies are no-sew, but for some reason with this head, your stitch marker is at the top. Normally it's at bottoms of plushies when you're making stuff. So I got around here, and the first time I made it, I did the legs first and then put the eyes in, and the eyes are still crooked. And then the second time I did it, I had made a note for myself that the stitch marker was indeed at the top of the head, and I assumed it would be in the middle of the eyes, right? No. So that head, I realized actually, it might be this one. That was my second one. You can kind of see that the eyes are crooked, kind of. I don't know why my lighting is so bad in here. but hopefully it's not too washed out on camera. I mean, I don't know how to fix it. I'm sorry. But I got about this far before I realized that the arms were really far off. So I just frogged it back and then moved the legs over a couple of stitches and kept going. So I really wish the pattern would have been very specific about where the eyes go, because there is some face shaping, but it was very confusing as to where the eyes go, and the face shaping wasn't very clear when I was there. Like, you could see there was a little bit of like a forehead in there. Like, I don't know if you can see, it kind of goes up, but it was hard to tell where it is. So maybe that's just a me thing, but if they sell well, I'll probably make more. But that's the two I have for now. And then I went ahead and made the snake from the pattern, which uses the exact same head. So I have the same complaints, but at least this one doesn't have legs that are sticking out in the wrong direction if my eyes were off placement, and they most definitely were off placement. So if you look really hard, you can kind of see that my eyes don't make sense where they are based on the shape of the head. But maybe if I like maneuver it around, I can make it a little less obvious. But this snake took me a long time. So I have written down that I'm going to charge $18 for this snake, which I feel like no one's going to pay $18 for a snake, but I mean, we'll see. This is a really pretty yarn. So this is the Velvet Twists in the color Alluring Peacock, I believe it's called. And it has very pretty colors in there. It's very soft because it is velvet. But oh boy, did I forget what working with velvet is like. So I'm going to have lots of fun when I finally sit down to do my Stash Bust September and work on my velvet collection. So that'll be fun. But I have one last pattern for you. And I'll show you before I'll tell you what it is. These are the natural colors of this animal. Do you know what it is? This is a platypus. So this was my last pattern to make from that book. And if you have not heard me say this before, I do not make copywritten items. No judgment to those who do, but I've just been through so many classes having an art degree of don't even mess with copywritten items, and I don't even go there. So like, even when people ask me for custom orders, the first thing I say is I do not make copywritten work. But the natural colors, the closest I could get was using my dark gray for the bill and the feet, and then using taupe for the body. And I think people might think it's a beaver. That's the other thing I think they might confuse it with. But these are going to be $16. I have two of them. We'll see how they do. I didn't have like the exact colors that I could use, which the real shame was when I was doing this yesterday, this really dark, almost black gray would have been perfect for the bill, but I used it all on spiders. So, oh well. I could have had a more ideal color, but I'm working through what I have right now to try to get rid of all of this yarn I have. I have so much yarn. But to quickly go over what all I made this week, that came out to a total of 53 plushies. So that gives me a grand total of $790 for the week that I made, which is really great, especially when you consider the fact that that is only 4 days of work. That is with Wednesday me being out of the house for most of the day, and then me editing a video every single day this week. So I'm honestly impressed by how much I was able to get done. But for the grand total for how much I will be bringing to my market, I don't have that calculated yet. So because I mentioned this book here, the reason I focused yesterday on finishing out part 1 of this so I could record is because I have all of those plushies now. So this entire page of plushies I have at least one of that I can now add to my inventory. So I still need to go tag everything for my market. It's only 8 a.m. so I still have a couple of hours that all I need to do is tag. I'm not going to crochet today. My parents are also in town. They just got in yesterday because my wedding is in a couple of days. So, because why wouldn't I do a market a couple of days before the wedding? But once I tag everything, I think I'm going to probably go hang out with them a little bit. And they are excited to come to my market. My mom really wants to do a market with me. So hopefully she finds it enjoyable and is not bored by it. This is a pretty good market for me to bring her to, I think. So I will throw up the number once I calculate everything. So I do get to throw in, let me see if I can pick this box up. All of these plushies are already tagged. They just need added to my inventory spreadsheet so I know exactly how much I have. But I know for sure I did reach my $5,000 goal. So we have tons of inventory to bring to the market. So most of that big box I did just pick up are larger plushies who are going to be about $30 to $40. So not necessarily something that might immediately sell, but I'm excited for this market. Last year when I did this in September, I made just over $1,000. And when I did it this year in May, I believe I did $1,400. But when I did it in August, I did $400. That was partly due to lack of inventory, but that makes it kind of hard to figure out how much I'm going to make today. May and September are usually the best months, so I'm hoping we will do well today. I do have 2.5 times the inventory I had last time, and I have a lot more of the best sellers and cheaper items, so I should theoretically do really well tonight. But I also need to not overhype it for myself, so I am in a good mood no matter how the market goes today. So after this market, like I mentioned, my wedding is happening, so I will not be crocheting next week. We are going out of town for a little bit, but nothing will get crocheted next week. If for some reason I do crochet anything, I will throw it into 2 weeks from now. So I guess it'll be 2 weeks of makes, but not really anything's going to get done this week because it is now time to switch to wedding mode as soon as this market is over. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it entertaining. Drop in the comments what your favorite plushie I made this week was, and if you have a suggestion for a good capybara pattern. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!